So packages, as in the case of R or Python, broaden the scope of the language considerably. Yes, and this is also the case in Julia. So instead of writing your code or that code that you are interested in, maybe you can get that code as a library from others. Yes, and that would make your package more richer, I would say, and also it will contain many other features. So isolated environments solve different problems. For instance, you can install a specific versions, either older or later versions on a package. And this can help you, yes, or assist you in getting some reproducibility in your simulations. So because the packages in Julia are lightweight, so you are encouraged to create one environment for each project, and then there is no problem, yes, if you have two projects with different packages versions. So keep in mind this, the lightweight environments in Julia, and also that you are encouraged to use an environment for each project that you use. So you can safely remove the environment for a project just by deleting some files, and create a new one if you don't need it, or you have some errors. It's easy to remove the environments in Julia. So we will see how to install packages and also how to work with isolated environments. And there are also some specifications for UPPMAX, yes, regarding the pre-installed packages. So these are the objectives and what you will see today. So let's take a look at the environments and ecosystem in Julia. So we saw yesterday, if you were here in this course, that Python has also environments, yes, that allows to isolate the project, right? So that you are conscious about what versions of the packages you install, right? And this can help you to keep track of your installations, and also to reproduce your code in another machine cluster, HPC center that you want. Yeah? So in Python, we saw that one can use conda and pip for creating and dealing with isolated environment. Here in Julia, the situation is simplified because there is only one environment manager, right, that is provided by Julia itself, right? So this situation holds if you are working with a pure Julia code, right? But I can see one issue that can arise, yeah? So for instance, imagine that you have some code, but this is a more specific and more advanced, I would say. So you just think in a situation where you have some workflow where you include conda pip. For Python, one part of your program or your workflow includes Python, and other includes Julia code. Then this simplification from Julia is lost, yes, and you are back to the conda and pip and so on environments, yeah. but this is more advanced. So we are talking now about Julia, and here I said the situation is simplified. You have only one environment manager, right? So Julia distinguishes between the so-called project environments and package directories. Just keep in mind these two terms, because although they are doing the same thing, there are some nuances, right? So you can read more about the environments in this documentation page from Julia. So one particular file that you will see when dealing with environments are the so-called TOML files, which stands for this long words. And in particular, in Julia, you will hit this project TOML and manifest TOML files, right, that will be present in your environments. And these two files allow the Julia manager, right, to deal with all the packages that you install and even combine them between different environments, right? So first of all, packages are imported or loaded by using the commands import or using. So you can use both of them to import the packages or to load the packages, but there is a subtle difference in the following sense. So if you use import and the name of your package, yes, then you will have to use the module name followed by the function that you want, yeah, because the namespace, yes, will not be present. Alternatively, if you use using, yes, and the module name, then you will import all the functions in the module and also the current namespace. And because of that, instead of writing the name of the module dot the name of the function, you can write simply fn or the name of the function, right? So you do not need to type in the module name dot the name of the function that you want. So what's the difference of why you would use one or the other? So imagine that you want a faster code. So you don't need to load all the modules available, sorry, all the functions available in a module. So to make it lightweight, so you can import specific functions. If you're interested only in some functions from the module, then just import that, right? And that could make your code even faster and more readable. This is also important in Julia, because as I mentioned in my previous lecture, there is some issue regarding the latencies in Julia. So it takes some time to load packages, to install packages, right? And if you do just an import from one function, then the latency could improve considerably. So here I suppose that you install already Julia and you run that for the first time. And how do you do it? You, as Bjorn and I mentioned before, you just type on the command line Julia, yes, and then it will run it for the first time. Then this procedure here will create a folder called .julia in the default location, which is the home directory. As you can see here, I am sitting in the home directory, and this creates a .julia folder. And if you type ls, you will see the different folders that Julia creates automatically, right? And they save all the packages that are installed and also all the relevant files for Julia. So these three commands, maybe it's not available in your system. So this allows you to display the directories in a tree manner, right? But it's not the default, by default installed in Windows or Linux. Yeah? You need to install it. So this is just a way to display the tree directory. So the packages in Julia work in a decentralized manner, which means that they are kind of independent units, yes, and they have an associated identifier called the UUID, and they are joined together by the package manager. This is a job that the package manager in Julia will do. So you don't need to take care of these steps. The package manager will combine the different packages according to these UUIDs. Also, in this lecture, I will cover what happens with the package manager behind the scenes, right? But if you don't want to have a strict control of what packages are installed and you just want some fast installation, then you don't need to follow these steps here in this lecture. This is only if you want to install specific versions of your packages and also to keep track of the specific versions of the packages and also the environments that Julia is aware of. So the first thing that we can look at is the different environments that are active in Julia. So if I open the session as I did it here, so then I can type on the prompt Julia path. And here you can see that these are the different environments that Julia can see, right? Add is the current environment. This one, the second one, refers to the default environment for Julia. And the last one is the standard library that includes, for instance, a print ln that you asked about before. And one extra environment is added at UPPMAX, which is this one. And this can have the most common packages that you will use in Julia. So you don't need to install it by yourself, but they are already there. So this can simplify your workflow, but at the same time, imagine that you leave the current machine you are working on, maybe HPC2N or UPPMAX, and you go to another center, let's say, I don't know, in Netherlands or USA, and then you want to reproduce your simulations. So you didn't realize, for instance, that you were using a specific version from the standard library or from the default environment or from UPPMAX or HPC2N, for instance. And when you are in your new place, you try to run your code, and then you could get some incompatibilities, right? So that's why I mentioned before. So if you want to get strict or more reproducibility, then you could pay attention to all these features from the environment. So by default, in addition to the current environments, other environments are present, as we saw before here, yes, and on the presentation. So we can see later on how to avoid this situation. So assuming that you are in a fresh Julia installation, so you haven't installed anything, right? Yes, we can start looking at the project information. So what type of projects or packages have been installed. So we can use for this task the PKJ module in Julia, and the PKJ information can be obtained with PKJ project. And you can see here that here are the packages that I installed. So in a fresh installation, you will see here nothing, and so on. And the location of the environments, right? This is the TOM file that I mentioned before. But because in my case, I installed already some packages like data frames. I installed already iJulia, benchmark tools. These are packages from Julia. Then I can see the information here. And this is the UUID that I mentioned before. And these are for the different packages. And they work as the national identity number for each person, I would say. So in that way, Julia knows what package and what version you are using. So let me add one package that is not installed in my present Julia session. I will use, for instance, I use already PKJ, so I can use DFDK. DFDK is a package for performing density functional calculations. So this is just for package installation. I will go into the details of this specific package. So you can see here that Julia says a package is not found and it wants to add it. So we can do it as Julia instructs us by saying yes, it's possible. But we can also do the following: pkj.add and the name of the package, right? This is one way, but here you see that you are typing a lot, yes, of characters. So if you want to do it in a faster way, then you can go to the package mode that I mentioned before by typing the square bracket, the right one, and then this will move to the PKJ mode. And here you can simply type add DFTK, and it will add the DFTK package. So notice here that Julia is telling you resolving the conflicts, yes, between all the packages, and it does it for you. Yeah. So this, you can see here that it takes some time to install the package for the first time. And this is some issue that was present in Julia, and it has been reduced considerably in the latest version by the developers. So you can benefit from the latest Julia versions. And this is related also to the latency problem that I mentioned before. Notice here that Julia is downloading several things, right? Behind the scenes. And it can take some time. So then when it is done, we can check for the project information, and this will give us the the changes, yes, to the project that Julia is using, right? The environment, the global environment for Julia with the recent changes that we did. So let me wait a little bit for this. Notice here that we are downloading several things, right? But it's also possible to tell Julia not to download it and to use existing modules. So this will be the result, right? When it finishes. And here you will see the DFTK with the UUID and the location of the default environment where it was installed. So I will continue until it gets installed. So now we can create a project, right? So remember that I mentioned before that we can distinguish in Julia between a project and also a package. So how do you create a project? So simply go to the Julia terminal. So let me see if it finished. No, not yet. So I will load here Julia, and then I will start a session. And here I can create the project, and let me now do the following using PKA. Then I will move to the shell, right? By typing the semicolon. And then I will do make-dir, which creates a directory. I will call it my first environment. Then I will move to this, my first environment. And then I am in this directory, right? So then I will return to Julia and then go to a package mode. And how do I create the project environment? I simply type activate and dot. And dot means activate the project for this particular or for the current folder. And in the beginning, I mentioned that in Julia, you're encouraged to create an environment for each project that you develop. This will be my first project. So now you can see that it was activated here. This is the way you can see that it was activated. You get the name here in parentheses. And here you can return to Julia, move to the shell, and then type ls, for instance. And you can see that it is empty at this moment. So you can start adding packages to your environment. So now that we have done these changes, yeah, we can check the load path, right? And you can see that we have these three elements as before, but if you added, or well, if you installed the DFTK package that I mentioned before, yes, then you will see a difference in the package status. Yes, in package status with this package project command. So, okay, so we are now in the environment. Yes, you can see that we are in the environment here. And let me see. Yes, it finished. Yes, fortunately. So the DFTK package was installed, right? So now that I am in this environment, right, I can add the package DFTK that was installed in the default environment from Julia. So I can do this by typing DFT, add DFT. And notice, sorry, it was DFTK. So it says resolving package versions, right? And this time, Julia is just trying to update the TOML files, right? Because in this case, it doesn't need to download and install all the dependencies as before. Yeah. So in principle, this process it should be faster. Well, it's not downloading all the packages, but as you can see here, the latency for these particular packages is relatively large because it's a big package, right? So if there is there any question at this point before I continue? So yes, well, we will wait for this installation, but here you can see the results, right? So specifically, if you take a look at the content of your directory, so it finished. Yes, it takes a lot of time, but it was less than in the initial installation because Julia has cached the dependencies, right? And it just needs to update some files, not download all of them. So let me go to the shell mode. And here we can check that these two files were created, right? So if we take a look at the project TOML, yeah, so you will see the information, yes, for the DFTK, yes, and this is the UUID. And the manifest file is longer, it contains more information. And here is what Julia uses to match the specific versions, yes, with all the other packages that you will use, right? So this is a file that is used by Julia to, yes, to match this version with other packages, and it helps Julia to resolve the conflicts. So it contains, manifest contains the full information and the organization layout. So now that we are here, so we are in a environment, right? So you can see that this environment is activated, and this is the point of where is located. So once you activate, or sorry, once you create the environment, it can be activated in several ways. And one particular way is by using the PKJ package. Yes, you don't need to install PKJ. It's part of the base installation of Julia. So you can do it by using the pkj.activate, right? And the dot means the current directory. Or also, if you start Julia from the command line, so if you exit this session, so then you can go to the folder where your project is located. In this case, is this one. And then you can start the Julia session in this way, project. And dot means the current project in this directory. So if we go to this PKJ mode, you can see that the environment is activated, and you can use already installed packages like VFTK. Sorry, it's using VFTK. So I can use it because it was installed previously, right, in this environment here. So we can also create a package environment, and the main difference with the package environment and the project environment that I mentioned before is that in the package environment, there is some structure, right? So Julia generates automatically, besides the TOMF file, it generates a source file where you can write your scripts for the project. So I can exit. Let me see. I will exit this session. Then I can start Julia simply. And here I will move to this default environment, right? And here I can generate my first package. Yes. And it tells you, well, I generated this folder, and it contains the TML file and the source file. And this is a script that you can start modifying, and it's for your project. So then in the shell, I can move to my first package. Notice the difference, the package and the project that I mentioned before. And here, once we are in the package directory, I can activate it, go to the PKJ mode and type activate. And you can see that the environment in the package was activated, right? And here you can start adding the packages. So notice that the package was activated, imagine that I want to use a DFDK package that was installed in the other environment, right? And it is also installed in the default environment. So now that I'm in this environment, yes, I can see it because it's already in the default environment. So you can also get information from the present project by using the previous command. You can see what packages are available for this particular project. Yeah. So besides the DFTK, you can also add other packages. Here I did it for Flux, which is a package for machine learning. And here you will see that Julia will modify these TOML files, right? So customizing the visible environments. So we mentioned before that Julia loads different environments, yeah, and you can specify environments should be visible by Julia, and one way to do that is by using this environment variable. So you type on the terminal. Oops. On the terminal here, before starting the session, you can type export and the different paths that you want. For instance, if you want to export just the current environment, then type this symbol here, add, right? And then when you go to the session and say what are the environment's presence, instead of seeing 3 options, you will see only the current environment. Notice here that I was in a project, in a project package here, but I could load the FTK that I didn't install in that package, right? And why is the case? Because it was already available from the default environment. If I don't want this behavior and I want DFTK, for instance, with one particular version in the default environment and one particular version in my current, then I can just specify the current environment and do the installation of DSTK for a particular version in this environment. So I hope this is not confusing. So if it is, just let me know. So what about if you want to clean the environment? So you start the Julia session and type, for instance, load path. So you will see these 3 options, the default ones. And if you empty the load path variable, then you will see that now it is empty. So you don't have any environment. So you can start pushing or loading the environments by typing push and this variable load path and then what you want here. And this, in this case, is the current environment, right? So once you exit this session and then return, you will see that the default environments are there. So they are not modified permanently, right? So just for that particular session. So one can also have the stack environments, right? And it means that you can put different environments in a combined manner, right? So here is how to do it. Just one specific example. So first, for instance, you can empty the path, yes, and then go to some folder or some, yes, create a folder, as in this case called my second environment, move to that folder and activate the environment. Yeah, I can do it right now. So I will empty. So now it's the environment is empty, right? So then I can type mk here, create my second environment, then move to my second, and here I activate the environment. Oops. And here now I activated the environment, right? And imagine that now I want to use the DFTK that was installed in the default environment. Now it tells me this package is not found. Yeah. So do you want to install it? And I say no, because it takes time. So now you can see that it's isolated in that way. So you cannot get the packages that are in the default environment or any other environment, just in the current one. Yeah. So you can isolate your projects in this way, and you can also combine your current environment. In this case, it's called my second, but we previously created one called my first environment, which could also have some version of your packages. And then if you push this environment into the load path, then all the packages that you installed there will be visible in your current environment. So there are some specific cases for UPPMAX. You want to mention it, Bjorn?
Yes, you can still share.
Yeah.
So on UPPMAX, we have a central library, which is very good at Bianca, where you don't have any internet. So there you can reach lots of packages already. You can also use it on Rackham, because then you don't need to install your own packages. But there will be specific versions of the packages. So maybe if you want some other version, then you can install it yourself. So you can control what is in the central library in the ordinary bash shell by module help Julia version. Then it will list. You can also from Julia check. And it seems that you don't need to do this. If you scroll down a little bit more. Yeah, so these are the ones. And yes, you will actually be able to import or use these packages directly. But to be able to list the packages that you have, then you have to, if you scroll up again, scroll up, yes. You have some lines here, so you activate the different environments. So by using this depot path number 2, then you basically activate the central libraries, and you can do a package status, and then it's listed all the packages and its versions, the versions. And then you can go back to your local environments with this, yeah, by pointing to depot path number 1. but I tried yesterday, and you can actually use the packages that are already centrally installed anyway. You don't have to activate this path, it seems. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so the situation it's different in HPC2N because here we only provide the base and standard library modules. So if you want to use some package from Julia, you can add it, as I mentioned, and Björn mentioned also, with the add command in Julia. Yeah. So we don't provide any installed package except for these ones. Yeah? So here are two exercises, yeah, that you can do after the break. Yes, which is now. And we will be coming back at 11:18. Björn?
Yeah, maybe have like a 12 minutes break. So, or what you want. And then how long time is needed for the exercises?
So 15 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So let's do exercises after your break, and then we start the next session at 11:30.
Okay.